still, you know.
Did
It
you see the short film he
Oh
recorded
yeah,
just like
the one that
so
he
good.
produced himself or
Yeah,
whatever.
it's so good.
Yeah. So that one when he actually is the Punisher the way that it's supposed to be,
Hmm.
somewhat. So but
I remember
but
seeing that
yes.
Punisher movie once, really long time ago, and then like forgot about it.
Right. Yeah.
But I was kind of
It's
surprised to see him in this because I thought he was a lot older. I must have lost track of time of when I watched the things and when they were made.
I mean, he
well,
is born in like the 70s, like
I was going to
60s,
say I think
70s.
he's in his 50s, so
I looked him up because he's 51, and I thought he was like mid 60s by now, and I just completely lost
ah.
track of him.
Well, in Hollywood, how can you tell anymore? They bathe in the blood of
Right.
virgins, so
Yeah.
they're like
I mean,
70 and still fit. So
I would say the standout role I remember him the most in is in The Mist.
oh yeah, that's obviously a great one since that's like one of my favorite movies of all
It's a
time.
really
So
good
We've
movie.
never talked about that one ever.
I know. I was like, let's talk about The Mist for 5 seconds because there's nothing else to talk
Mine
about.
was 61. There was the HBO movie about Mickey Mantle and Roger Maris, which none of you have probably seen.
Nope.
But he was Mickey Mantle.
I don't even know who those people are.
They're baseball
geez.
players.
I don't care about baseball.
You don't care about lots of things you should care about, but we've established that too.
I mean, you
There's
can
also
not
a
care
Mist
about a
TV
thing
show.
and still understand.
Like, you know who
like,
Babe Ruth is just because you
Right.
don't pay attention to baseball.
like the
Vaguely.
legendary figures from that slice of life.
Let's make this a sports talk one, and that way only you and
Oh.
I can talk, Justin.
No, I can pretend.
Right.
So,
You can pretend.
yeah.
She's going to roll her eyes, and this one's going to be like, soccer? But I mean,
Yeah.
football?
I
don't follow
recognize those names,
But that's the
I
only
gotta-
sport you have.
No, we have handball,
Oh, that's even worse.
which is like way bigger.
That's the kind of shit people do as 12-year-olds to like hate each other. I'll make that a profession.
Whatever sport we're currently good in is the one that's big, and right now it's handball because we're like the world
Luge?
champions.
I assume luge. You guys are probably always good at that.
I
All
have
the
no
Winter
idea what
Olympic
that is.
sports that nobody pays attention to.
We don't.
Curling.
Denmark don't really participate in the Winter Olympics all that much.
What else are you going to participate? All you are is the Winter Olympics.
No, that's.
What are you going to do in the Summer Olympics? Crew?
We usually do better than our northern brethren, at least in the.
Because you're not Northern. You're not a Northman.
We are North. We're just
You just-
the
but there's
most
more north. They're just
there's
the
more north.
moderate
We're the
north.
most
North,
we're
so
the
they're
most
north.
south north.
Yeah. Not the deep north,
They're the great middle north. Up there's the great white north, and then
Like we're like the Vikings that went to England, and
You
Norway.
were just complaining a couple weeks ago about getting snow and you didn't know how to handle it.
Who, me?
Yes.
No, I just said it's been a while. Because it has been a while. Like we used to have snow all the time. Like when I was a kid, we were talking like walking through snow up to your stomach almost, like a lot of snow. But it hasn't happened much the past 10 years, to be honest.
no wonder you're not good at
Global
Winter
warming.
Olympics anymore. You've out of practice.
So
Even though
we
it should
actually
be-
have had snow for like on off for like a week now, which like is unusual. Doesn't really happen much anymore.
You don't go out anyway, so what's the difference?
That is true. I do not go out much. It's Corona. It's dangerous.
Yeah, that's the reason why.
Definitely, Corona had a big impact on my life and changed the way I live it a lot. Totally affected me and the way I live my life.
Now we probably won't listen to you being dead in a ditch somewhere for being drunk. But that's only because you don't go out.
Yeah, if I'm dead drunk, I'm dead drunk here.
Right, where it's comfy.
Yeah, where it's comfortable. Were we going to talk about The Mist?
No.
Yeah, I was
We
going to say
decided not
this
to
is an
do that.
interesting digression from Thomas Jane from The Expanse.
Yeah,
Like because
let's
that's what you
criticize
guys
on
got
this.
the cold open for this time was like the director has seen 4 whole episodes of The Expanse now, and so we're like, oh yeah, we should have led with Thomas Jane's character Miller, and then what else is he in? Oh, all these great things. Let's talk about sports and snow in Denmark. So
I'm fine with that. Having
Yeah.
seen none of The Expanse and not really caring about Thomas Jane's filmography one way or
You
the
should
other.
watch The Expanse, unless you're
Yeah.
like very anti-sci-fi or something.
I am in general anti-sci-fi of a lot of things. I've never really appreciated many sci-fi shows. I think Andromeda is the only one I ever watched all the way through, even back in the day.
Oof, this is so much better than Andromeda, though. And
Which is
Andromeda
fine, but I never
Andromeda
cared
is
about it.
it's really a rough one to be like, that's the sci-fi show I finished.
Listen, I was young and I didn't know any better.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Andromeda has some great scenes. Like my favorite override code in any of science fiction comes from Andromeda. So, override code, shut up and do what I told you. From what's her face's ship. Like it's been so long, I don't even remember the names of the characters.
It makes two of us.
But yeah, so. But The Expanse, you can call it a sci-fi show. Obviously, it is, but it's also like it's a geopolitical thriller, and for me, like it butts up against some of the ideas. Like people talk about, when it was like the year 2000, right, in the distant future, and everybody was talking about like the singularity and how computers are going to get so much smarter, so much faster than humans are, and that sort of thing. We were all afraid of it theoretically, but to me, the real singularity is the cultural stuff. Like if you look at our own planet and you look at the fact that we have uncontacted Amazonian tribes, for example, versus, SpaceX on the same planet. We got people going to space, going to the moon, and soon to Mars. How long is it going to take you to have cultural drift when you start colonizing other planets? And then, take that even further to have extra solar, especially without FTL, especially without any kind of like subspace communication like Star Trek or whatever, cultural drift is going to happen so fast.
Within one generation, I would think.
Right. And The Expanse covers that. Basically, like that's the key point.
How long has
of
it been in The
Expanse
Expanse,
is that
actually? With the Mars and the Rim?
Doesn't it start
Mars
like
has only been around
2300
for
or something?
Yeah, I was going to say 22. It's only been around for like a couple hundred years, but basically, that's what you run into. Like, obviously, everybody needs something from Earth, so Earth maintains their power. But in a lot of ways, they've become the shithole country that everybody is afraid of. Like obviously, great, they're a superpower, but they also, like their people, kind of fall into some stagnation and things like that. You've got the Belters that basically they don't have a planet because they're out on asteroids and comets and various other things out in the system. And then you've got the Martians, which had a tussle with Earth back in the day and basically didn't like getting bossed around. And the Martians, more explicitly as well, they had to choose to go to Mars. And they're all, educated scientists and whatnot. They're not a bunch of like blue collar workers. These guys are all smart and don't like getting pushed around. So you get a lot of human excellence and militarism from the Martians, and so you get the political dynamics
the whole, common good, right? Like Mars first and
right
and all that. And I really like how I also like the mix of cultures that are like on each. Like of course, Earth is Earth, and it's a mix of what's on Earth. Right. But and like in Mars is it's Texas and it's China for some reason, right? Right. That's like the predominant cultures, specifically Texas, or I just get that impression because of the pilot.
Gotcha. Yeah, you get a fair bit of that. Part of it might be because not that the director knows his character yet, but like Bobby's personality is a little bit more Texas, so you get it through her lens. But I don't know that I get the same thing from Alex, for example, because he's Martian, and he's just not in your face Martian, whereas like Bobby is a Marine.
The way he talks and it's like this drawl. That's
like fair.
Drawl.
Yeah. It's the only other thing I've actually seen Haas used in.
Right.
Haas, yeah. And then there's the Belters who are like what
Slavic,
New Orleans as well or something like that.
Well, Creole and Eastern European and a bunch of other stuff. Because you got Miller, he's definitely not any of those, right? But they're if you dig into their language, it's a mix of a lot of like the Belter language and their dialect is a lot of mixed words like that. So
there's this actor that I can never remember the name of who's in The Expanse. He's also in Fringe. We were talking about Fringe before we started the podcast. He's let me just find his name. He's so good, but I can never remember his
Willing
name.
to bet you're talking about Jared Harris.
I am talking about Jared Harris. He does the accent so well.
He's very good at being a bad guy, or like intimidating and various accents.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
He's great. I just want to be. I think he does the whole Delta accent like really, really good.
Sure.
Only
4 episodes in. I'll update my opinions
Right.
as I go more.
Right. I mean, you get a
treat.
decent introduction in the first 4 episodes. Like, you're obviously barely touching on some of the mystery and some of the other stuff that's going on. But if I remember right, you get a lot of the hard sci-fi in the first 4 episodes. I mean, you get the showdown with the Donagers, so you get the fact that they're using actual physics to move the ships. Right. This isn't like Star Trek or Star Wars where we just kind of hand wave that away.
So when the Canterbury exploded and then they had to deal with the debris wave, it's like that's not something that shows up very often. Or like they have been pretty good about showing the hard sci-fi without making it too technical. Like it's not hard. Like I immediately understand it.
Right.
But then there's like the explanation of the damage of low gravity over generations. That was also very interesting.
Right. The Belters don't get to go to Earth because they won't survive the gravity. And even Martians, you'll find out later, have a tough time with it, obviously. And
which is more that's the sky, right? They have trouble with the sky as well. If I remember correctly.
Right. Some of that. With the Donager, you also get your first taste of the magnetic boots that all the
they started doing that on Canterbury and the Night. They did that pretty fast, yeah. Okay. And that was another thing. Like they didn't have to explain turn on the gravity boots. They just did it, and I understood it. It's I've been enjoying like they're just expecting you to understand and pay attention.
Right.
And that's refreshing because I hate it when they over-explain things.
They rub your nose in it.
Yeah.
This is all from the books. It's very within reason, very based on real life and science as we know it.
Right.
And then there's little things sprinkled on top. That's more like, for example, the juice.
Right. I was going to say, so depending on how hard sci-fi you're going, right? Like the older definitions of hard sci-fi is like maybe you get one fantastical technology. Anything beyond that, you're dealing with like space fantasy or science fiction just in general, right? But if you want to do like a hard sci-fi, you get to do one thing, and your one thing is usually FTL, right? Because it's really boring to tell a story on one generational ship for whatever, unless that's what you're going for. But like with The Expanse, like they're one made up fantasy technology beyond, like obviously some of the later stuff that I don't want to spoil. Like as far as the human technology goes, is the juice, right? The juice is an inexplicable thing that lets them maintain high G maneuvers. And even as far as that goes, like it's not it's inertial dampeners, but it's just the one thing. It's not like a dozen other stacked technologies that don't make sense. They don't have gravity plating. They don't have all of this other stuff. If they want gravity, they spin the ship. If they want to not fly off, they use gravity boots, they use rail guns, they use projectile weapons, missiles, things like that. There is no energy weapons. I mean, like maybe in a couple of one-offs, but like all of their stuff generally fits to the physics, and the show does a really great job with a lot of that. Like if you're going into combat, okay, great, you've got armor, but what good is that if you're getting pierced by a rail gun? So they suit up because they're expecting to get a hull breach because they're having a firefight in space.
Have you guys ever read Honor Harrington?
No.
You might enjoy it. The space opera, military stuff, but like the similar kind of thing of like, I think he made up some things about physics and how they move very fast, but he also like there are inertial dampeners in the ship and they do certain things, but once you go after a certain speed or like instantaneous change, you're just going to become sludge, so you really can't go faster than that.
Right.
And when they get into combat ready, they get into suits because at any point it's just going to become vacuum and you have to hope that it didn't take you out immediately.
Right. See, so I don't necessarily like even particularly enjoy hard sci-fi stuff. What I like is the consistency though, right?
Mhm.
And so like that's kind of where you run into it with Star Trek and Star Wars and whatever. It's like those are just fine for me, obviously. It just be consistent,
Until they
like
break the rules.
yeah, exactly. And but I mean maybe if they're clever or something like that. But like you got the same thing with Iron Man from Marvel, right? Like that dude is paced pulling any of the maneuvers that he does. At the very least he's going to break his arms or his legs, something like that, let alone liquefy his internals. But hard sci-fi, if you're true to it, like The Expanse is, it's much easier to be consistent with the rules because you're only making one exception. And so there are plenty of times where you see physics is gonna kick your fucking ass, because you are pushing yourself too hard or you're trying to do stupid shit or you need to do stupid shit to survive, so um, so that's what's fun. But stuff like Ender's Game or the Honorverse or whatever, it does look interesting, but I don't necessarily prefer that because it can also be boring, right? Because real life is boring. Physics is like, oh well, it's going to take us 25 minutes to do this high G maneuver because
Hello, podcast.
So, but
I think David Weber's a very good writer, so he was able to keep it like it's not boring. But there's like he has sections of technical stuff if you care about it, and my mom
Right.
was just skipped over. It's like okay, big number, whatever, and I was trying to follow it. But the technical and the political and all of it was really mattering. Like it's if you like this, I think you would also enjoy it. It's not exactly the same, but it's good. And then they have tree cats, which are gigantic Maine Coons. So I love those.
I think there's kind of like two things that sort of break that hard sci-fi thing. It's the juice, but also the way they attain their speed to do. That's not really explained how that works. It's the thing.
Yeah. It's a fusion drive of some kind.
Yeah, some kind. But other than that, other than the more things later, then that's pretty much it.
Right. Yeah, and I mean you're right because the distances and the amount of travel that they get because they're able to bebop around the solar system a lot, which like from our current technology, our best guess with a theoretical engine is it would take 6 weeks to get from here to Mars, right? And so like that, and that's using a theoretical fusion engine that nobody's produced. But if you take technology a little bit further, like just assume we're going to get something to that as long as you can keep the speeds within human tolerances, right? Because that's kind of what the Expanse does. Like you have to accelerate over time, and if you do 1 to 3 Gs, maybe it is acceptable depending on what you're doing. Sometimes they get a little funny, I think, with whether or not, like with momentum in space, like during the dogfights and stuff, they adhere to it, but it's one of those like, oh no, we ran out of fuel, so we're dead in space, and it's like that's not what happens.
Right,
you're
no,
just
you're
going that
floating.
way forever, so hopefully you don't hit something unless you're looking to hit something, and then hopefully you do hit something because otherwise goodbye forever. That was
In many ways. It makes me think of the Martian. There's like the one gimmick is kind of the spaceship, how they get to Mars, right? And the rest is pretty grounded in this could actually happen.
Right. Well, he did some research, but he admits that it may not be perfectly accurate. So
not perfect, but it's pretty. I mean, a great book, by the way. It's like I've watched both the movie and read the book because I like the movie so much. The book is really good. I would like if you like that sort of thing, and you like a snarky protagonist, which I think we all do since we like the Dresden Files, then I would say it's a book that you should read or listen to.
Right.
The audiobook was good.
I'm gonna pivot just a little bit so that EG can like do more than just be pretty on camera for us. You were talking about how you don't generally like sci-fi shows earlier. I'm sure we've talked about this before, but have you watched Firefly?
Nope, just the movie.
Just the movie, and didn't really get into it.
I like the movie. I still will watch it when it's on. It's standalone. I've never felt the need to go back and watch
The show.
Firefly, especially once people started talking it up like they did The Office. I was like, nope, I'm fine with what I have. Thanks.
Fair enough. Part of what made me pivot a little bit is because one of the things that's always bugged me from the show is they have an episode called Out of Gas, and they have one of those situations where it's like, oh no, we ran out of fuel in space, and now we're just. They make it seem like the ship is just parked there when it's like, no, I mean, like Firefly again, it pushes the fantasy a little bit because you don't have inertial dampeners per se, but they've got their gravity drive, right? And that's their more or less FTL, or at least faster than normal conventional type of drive. But that episode always kind of bugged me that they made it seem like they were just adrift when it's like, no, I mean, punch it up to 11 and a point at the nearest planet. Like, oh no, we ran out of gas, but like, unless your environmental controls are going to fail or something like that, like that's something that you're not going to survive, so.
Mm-hmm.
But it depends how far there is between planets. I don't remember the.
Oh, dude, the Firefly system is so broken. There's like 500, habitable moons or something like that, and like a dozen planets or whatever. Like it's pretty ridiculous. Like, because Firefly takes place in one solar system, they just made it giant. I think it's like a binary or a trinary system, and so like that's where you might get a little bit different. Is like, I think there's a very nearby star. I'd have to look at the map again, but there's like 500 habitable moons, and you go to like a dozen different places, and they just call them worlds, right, to keep away from having to make the distinction between, is this a moon that's been terraformed or a planet, and yeah, that's the other thing too. Like it doesn't impact the story in any way, but back in the history of the show, basically they terraformed this almost the entire system, and then you get a little taste of that because you go to a desert world where the terraforming didn't take for some reason, or you go to a different world where they were mining something and that mixed with the terraforming atmosphere and caused a new disease, which is from the episode Train Job and stuff like that. So you guys thought I knew a lot about Star Wars. Just wait. No, I'm just kidding.
But I mean, I think I've seen Firefly like 4 or 5 times. It's a good show. I mean, I'll watch anything Joss Whedon makes. Like, I've seen Dollhouse, which probably is one of his weaker shows, like 3 times. Which is also, I guess, that's sci-fi.
Dollhouse.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's more grounded, but I'm not sure what genre I would put it in. But since they're just like programming people, but that's fairly sci-fi. So
it also goes pretty because it felt a little jarring, but it goes pretty big, pretty fast. But I think it's because they knew they were getting canceled and they had like a storyline they wanted to finish.
Yeah,
like
Joss Whedon should just start by writing the ending because he knows he's going to get canceled. Like, so.
Which is weird because he makes very popular shows. Why is he getting canceled?
Yeah, because he keeps going with Fox because they're the only people that'll hire him for some reason. So I don't know. At least until he got in with Marvel. So.
Yeah, I wish he would have stuck with that, but that was a bit much for him apparently.
Well, it
couldn't have been so much if he jumped over to DC.
Right.
Has he done anything for them yet, or is he just committed to
He
something?
did.
He fixed
the second half of Zack Snyder's bullshit.
Yeah.
Justice League.
Justice League. Yeah.
I mean, it was going to be crap anyway, just like the Snyder Cut's going to be crap. But
I have a friend who's so excited for it, and I'm just like,
oh, there's lots of people that are.
I'm just like, I don't think it's gonna be good, dude.
It's not gonna be good. Zack Snyder's he's done like one good thing in his entire life, and people keep hiring him.
What has he even done that's good?
I can't even say it's objectively good, but I enjoy 300.
Yeah.
Didn't he do Watchmen too?
Watchmen's okay. Watchmen's overrated to me, both
I'd
as
say
a
Watchmen
comic and
bad.
as the movie. Like, I liked it, but I never found it to be this groundbreaking. I mean, granted, I came many years after, so it's.
I like 300, and I also like Watchmen.
Both of those two are enjoyable in their different ways.
Oh, he's doing the Army of the Dead reboot this year too. But he also did Dawn of the Dead, which is like my favorite zombie movie. So, there's that.
Yeah, I thought that was positively received, but I don't really give a shit about zombie movies one way or the other. So.
Yeah.
Like, Shaun of the Dead is my favorite zombie movie, and that's incidental to the fact that it's a zombie story. It's because I like them.
Right. Yeah, he did Legend of the Guardians, never saw, but he did Watchmen, he did Sucker Punch.
Yeah.
But I mean, really, Dawn of the Dead was like his first movie that anybody would recognize. So,
Right. And then I got eclipsed by 300 pretty easily, I would
right.
think.
Yeah, it came out 2 years later, much better, so much more comic book and all of that stuff. So,
Oh.
Yep.
So as long as, listen, you can take out him, take out JJ, just take them all out. Just stop giving them work.
Right. Yeah, it wouldn't phase me at all. So
that would be good. I would like that.
Yeah, Hollywood gets into this weird thing, especially with a lot of the superhero stuff, where it's like they like to hire the guy that did the one thing that one time, right? Like I forget what's his nuts from Chronicle, right? So he did Chronicle, which is like a found footage, like fan project on steroids type of thing. And then they were like, why don't you reboot the Fantastic Four? Because when has
Not
that ever
so
been
good.
terrible?
Not so good.
Yeah.
Chronicles, really good. Really good.
But part of the problem and part of the trope, right, is that they've got this one success, and so then they're like, you better start treating me like like I've made 400 good movies. And so they somehow get this following where it's like, oh my god, Zack Snyder is amazing. It's like, cool, name 5 movies that he's done
have actually been good.
Right. It's just so funny because if you compare him to some of the greats from the 80s, where it was like, come on, everything they touched was good, and they've done dozens of movies, then you get to have this reputation. But instead it's like, well, I did Chronicle. Well, that's great. How many people have seen Chronicle? Like it's in my wheelhouse, and I haven't seen Chronicle.
Even if everybody who saw it loved it, that's still like 17 people. That's not.
It's really good.
Including Andrea. We now
really
have to look at it with a grain of salt.
Right.
I'm looking at J.J. Abrams' filmography. I can really only say there's one thing there that I think was like where he was the director, where I was like, yes, that was really good, and that's Super 8.
What? Who are you? Like
that's
like
the one I enjoyed the most.
No wonder you like
his
Fringe,
like
because you're
trying to be
the...
Spielberg. Like that was his. He was like just trying to redo Close Encounters.
Something like that. Well, that with a baby version of his monster from Cloverfield. So I don't know, man.
You don't like Super 8?
What is it with these found footage movies too? Like Cloverfield. Like I didn't even hate Cloverfield when it came out, but it was just, and then the ending, it was like, really, that's what we're doing.
Cloverfield's the only movie of his that I do like. So but again, I think you should make a distinction, right? I think Super 8 was okay. Does not make it a good movie. Does not make it even a good J.J. Abrams movie. So
which J.J. Abrams movies that he directed do you think is better?
That's what I'm saying, Cloverfield. So
he didn't direct Cloverfield,
didn't he?
So much the
not
better.
On the list.
You know why? Because it's a found footage film and he can't do lens flare. No wonder he didn't direct it.
What did he do? Just write it then? Because
or he produced
it's not on the list at all. He produced it,
which means something or nothing.
Right.
All right. So if he had nothing to do with it, then so much the better.
Yeah. No wonder I liked it then.
He produced it.
That's what I just said. So he probably just produced it.
But that can mean anything from like micromanaging or just writing a check.
Correct.
So it's too vague.
His filmography on Wikipedia is, let's see, what he actually directed is Mission Impossible 3, Star Trek, Super 8, Star Trek Into Darkness, and Star Wars Force Awakens and Rise of Skywalker.
Right. So again,
all the genius
crap.
Works.
So,
brilliant.
2 episodes of Lost. He did the pilot.
Yeah, he was one of the starting people
Felicity.
of Lost.
Yeah, but wasn't the whole show his and that's why?
That's not his filmography. That's his television.
I think then they kicked him out or something. It's a weird shit. But he seems to be pretty good at starting shows that are very fun and then completely loses track of what it needs to do.
He has no way. He doesn't know how to end things.
The best thing
with Alias and Fringe and Lost.
He's like the woman who writes Hunger Games who didn't know how to fucking end anything.
The best description I heard for him is that he's really good at writing scenes and making flashy shit, but really bad at story. And so you get
You mean the
mystery and
important
you
concept?
yeah. So like that's part of why Lost was okay for so long, is because you get this mystery and you get all this other stuff, but then people like closure and they like the story to end.
No, he genuinely thinks the mystery box is all you need. He had his talk about it.
Can you imagine working on the show with him and he's like, okay, so there's this mysterious bunker with a bomb and it's super. Okay, so where does this lead, JJ? Where does this go? Oh, I don't know. I mean, whatever.
It leads to a dagger that perfectly replicates wreckage that wasn't there before.
Like I want to know who hurt him as a child. No, it was too good to pass up. But I want to know, like, what did he consume as a child where he thought that this is what the storytelling universe needed, right? Like this is, I'm such a big Star Trek and Star Wars fan. You know what we really need is we need hand wavy bullshit, because that was the definitive.
Well, that's the thing. He took the fantasy sci-fi aspect of things that Lucas and Spielberg did, and then he watched all the alternate endings of Clue, and he thought to himself, this is what I have to do. I have to marry these two because
right.
That's what the people want.
I want to say that he did the least offensive stuff in the new Star Wars trilogy, but that's not saying much because it was still terrible.
Really?
That's only
like showing up and saying
most offensive thing was a guy who's never going to do anything ever again in Star Wars.
He did the most offensive stuff. He brought you such gems as we've got a trilogy of 2 movies, and somehow Palpatine returned.
When you're left,
let's not do that again. That was a 1 in a million maneuver. Those are the gems that he brought.
That's his fix. That's his fix to the guy who's more offensive.
But I mean,
oh my god,
he had to for the shit show he was left with the second one.
No.
I mean, poor guy.
If he could write, look, I'm not saying that the second movie was amazing, but at least the second movie didn't try to unwrite the first movie. And in my entire life, I've never seen somebody come in to like the next part of the story and be like, let's just pretend the last chapter didn't happen.
And he still gets all of the blame for the first one.
I think you can only get away with
saying
but the first one was,
it was terrible.
It was not terrible. It was just
terrible. It broke all everything that was built on. Even the prequels of like you have to like train and focus. She closed her eyes and understood the whole force. It was stupid.
Do you remember how we weren't talking about the Mist because we've talked about that before? and we did exactly what I said we were going to do, which was just fall back on Star Wars.
Well, you brought up Abrams, so you have to because it's 2 of the 5 movies that he's directed.
I only brought him up to say don't give him work anymore, and then this one decided to go look at his filmography like that's a.
Why do you refer to me as this one instead of my name?
Saying your name
because you understood it. He didn't need to say your name.
Really?
You answered.
But it's rude.
I've attributed the actions you took to you. I didn't call you a thing. I didn't call you it. Even though I could have. That would have been rude. I'm taking the very safe, non-specific pronoun approach. You should appreciate that as an enlightened liberal.
Oh boy.
Who lives in a socialist country.
You have no... So Dungeons and Dragons, Justin.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Hey, back to
You've been playing?
I can't talk about it.
Yeah,
that's the best way to do it.
My 2 characters are both high-level wizards, and we just finished Dead and Thay for one of them. We were doing a series of one-shots, and then he left from level 10 to level 15, so now I'm a proper archmage, and I've been spending a lot of time thinking about how to be a wizard.
I've got a Dungeons and Dragons complaint. How come dragon isn't a class? How come you can't play as a dragon or a half dragon?
Well, they're races, not classes, for starters. So, and then you've got Dragonborn. So
that doesn't mean anything. You're still a person. You're not like a dragon.
Would a series of one shots not be?
That's like the difference between a cleric and a druid. It's just I worship different things. Big fuck.
We're having competing conversations. So to address EG because it's controversial, right? Or at least he thinks so. I don't think it's not.
I just want to play a dragon.
Yeah, you could, depending on your dungeon master. 5th edition kind of ups the barrier to entry more than 3rd did, for example.
But my real question is what alignment?
Yeah. The problem
alignment doesn't matter in 5th edition.
I would have assumed chaotic evil.
the problem is that dragons are very powerful. So even a young dragon, competes with a party, right? Because you're meant to fight an entire party. So
Right.
so it's not like you can be like, oh well, this guy's level 5 and I'm a dragon, because it's like,
Yeah, but like,
If you want to
Arthur
keep the
Howard.
power levels
Aren't-
reasonable, I know they've made Wormling playable races in the Unearthed Arcana. That's
as
supposed
far
to
as
be
I
fun.
understand it, though, there are like gods, right? There are aspects
Yeah.
of. So if they made an edition where you were like, okay, so you could play as a half dragon, you could play as a
Mhm.
half angel, and now you're going on these missions to fight the bigger higher ups.
Yeah.
Would that not be something people would like?
So you can do that. One of the common complaints for 5th edition, so they introduced or codified like a tier system. And so you've got 4 tiers. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, obviously. You've got 1 through 5 is first tier, 6 through 10 is second tier, etc. Tier 4 of play is like level up to level 20, 16 to 20. And that's where you become more or less demigods, and you would do some of those bigger things. You would go to hell and kick Satan in the face or whatever. But the Dungeons and Dragons doesn't spend like TSR Wizards, whatever. They don't spend a lot of time there because not a lot of campaigns survive that long, and not a lot of characters survive that long. So there's not a ton of content there. But you can
feel free to
absolutely
start there if you.
Well,
if
that's what I'm
you
saying.
want.
If you just started there and they were leveling up to that,
It
and
doesn't.
you'd have to
It's a
have
little.
races to obviously match
I mean, you can
that, I would think.
homebrew whatever you or what you want.
Right.
But just if you start there, if you start at level 15 because you want to be a half angel demigod who goes to
I wanna
fight
be a
the
dragon.
or dragon who goes to fight the gods, you should have played Dungeons and Dragons before because you're going to have a lot of mechanics at level
Right.
15.
It's also very difficult to balance encounters there because there's a whole lot of if I point my finger at you, you die, or I'm immune to death because I'm level 15, or even if I'm a wizard, for instance, in this case, like I've got about 5 spells that can make me exceedingly difficult to kill. And even if you do kill me, I will be back in 5 minutes and really pissed off about it. So once you
And
get
the
to the
challenge
higher
rating
tiers
on
of
some
play,
of those monsters as well, like the high up monsters, the things they can do,
right?
They're like, whew.
Well, yeah, people find it difficult to balance, and the game becomes unfun for them. The campaign that I'm working on now starts at 10 and is actually meant to go until an effective level of 30 because we're playing Gestalt. And what that means is you're basically leveling up 2 classes at a time. So that's a rule set. If you don't want to play D&D, but you want to do something super uber broken like that, you can play Exalted, which is where you're basically all demigods and stuff like that anyway.
Is Gestalt the levels after level 20? There's a level system after level 20.
Well, kind of, but yes, but no. Those homebrew rules,
maybe they just homebrewed it. My roommates played something where they got to 20 and they continued on. They climbed a tower or something, and
in 5th edition, what you would do is you've got epic boons, and so you don't level up per se, but you basically get these like epic level feats. And there are some homebrew rules, and they borrow stuff from like Pathfinder and other adjacent rule sets at times. But yeah.
I mean, I'm running a campaign. We're on a break right now, but I'm running a Greek-inspired called Odyssey of the Dragon Lords, where they are all, pretty. They're the destined heroes, right? One of them is even the son of a god, or daughter of a god, rather. And there's like mechanics of that. There's a whole lot of Greek mythos into it, and it's really, really cool. But damn, even we started off like really intensely in the summer, where we played every day for like a week, and then we've been playing once a week up until before Christmas, and then people got busy, and now we're on a break. But it takes a really long time. Like, this book is 400 pages, and we're only 50 pages in or something.
Right. Yeah, and it depends on how you play and how prepared you get and stuff like that. So
they are about to get to level 4 when they're done with this part here.
Oh, good. Yeah. So it depends. I mean, I've been playing so long that sometimes it can be refreshing to go back to level 1 and be like, a crossbow bolt to the chest is going to squish me. but otherwise I prefer to do like 5 through 10 because it's like, let's just skip all that. We all know Spider-Man's origin story. I don't need to see, levels 1 through 5 again.
I gave them the option. There's an option in the book that they can skip like some of the great labors, it's called, and they can start at level 3 or 4 or something like that. But they wanted to experience the whole book.
Yeah, that's fair. So
just make a game. Start me at a level 99 Arc Dragon, which is like an Archangel Dragon, and let me go.
You've never even been like exposed to D&D before.
I did it one time.
This is
college.
The closest you've been to D&D.
No. I played around once in college. I was I don't even remember what I was. I was like a half. It was like an elf, but it wasn't an elf. It was like the thing where you get an animal spirit companion, I think.
Okay, so again, we're talking about different things. So were you a half-elf ranger or druid?
Don't remember.
A paladin?
If I had the book with the pictures in front of me, I could probably tell you, but I don't.
How long ago was your college?
Which edition
days?
was this?
Oh, this was fucking fine. I was 18, so this was well over a decade ago.
So probably 3 or 3.5. So
sure, let's go with that.
Yeah. So that's the third edition's the one that I played the most. It took us, the better part of a decade to finally like adopt to 3.5, just because we were in the middle of existing campaigns and didn't want to like convert our characters. And then we completely gave fourth a miss. Most of us bought the books because we're that hardcore fans and we want to see the company survive, even, some questionable decisions at times. But once fifth came around, we definitely started looking into playing new stuff and converting characters and things like that. But even still, we mostly played campaigns out to completion before, I think we've got one campaign that's still kind of chugging along a little bit. That's 3.5 and the rest is fifth now. But yeah, fifth has been great. It's not perfect, but I think a lot of the complaints come from a more video game oriented culture, where people are like, oh, this is stupid. Why is it so clunky? And all these other things. It's like, because, it didn't just show up, 5 years ago. It's the culmination and evolution of a system that's like, 50 years old by now, from the 70s. So, but.
I mean, I think D&D's mostly it's what you make it, right? Because like also, even if there's something that it doesn't work for you or the people you play with, you can easily just say, let's just say this instead, just within reason, right? Because so you don't break the game.
Yeah, and I'm definitely one of those that likes to say yes, but I also like to root it in a balance, somewhere. It's like, find me something that implies you would ever be able to do this, so that you're not just completely breaking it. Some of that is because I've taken stuff that's, rules as written or raw is the shorthand for it. And like, they've made so many broken characters that it's like, okay, cool. You've got this half giant paladin compared to the vanilla elf ranger. Like, how am I going to balance that encounter? One guy can come in and he can 2-hit something to death and the other guy's wailing on it for 25 minutes because I'm trying to challenge your broken ass character, so that was a 3.5 campaign, but still, like, fifth doesn't have that many problems. You
fifth
can still run
it's
into
a lot more on the base level of what they make. It's a lot more balanced. Like, there's not that kind of brokenness, I feel like, unless you get like really late and then everything's broken.
Right. And that's kind of where like my planning is taking place right now, is because I'm taking a mid to high level campaign, but I'm also doing Gestalt on top of it because it's a campaign idea I've had since, the 3.5 days when they had proper codified rules for it. So that'll be interesting. And it is going to be one of those where, spoiler alert if you're one of my players, but, they're going to take it through and, take it to the outer planes and fight some gods and demigods and things like that. And they're going to shake up the cosmos. So
they could really use a level 99 Arch Dragon on their teams.
Oh yeah, for sure. So you're volunteering, you want to play? So
yeah, my character's name, as long as you make me this specifically.
I'll bring you in when we hit level 99. How about that?
So you're going to,
if you want to play from day one, I'll work with you. We'll find a character, but I think you're going to be, you're going to have to make some compromises. Let's put it that way. So,
some. Lots.
You should try it, Jacob. It's
I'm
it's
certainly willing to listen to the compromises and reject them out of hand afterward.
Okay.
It is a lot of fun playing Dragons. I'm not a good player. I like being a dungeon master, game master, whatever. I'm not very good at having someone else make all the decisions. Like this doesn't make sense in my head. Therefore, I object. And that's why I'm just a DM instead.
Yeah, I mean, I think the two main things to keep in mind for D&D, and then everything else follows from that, right, is that it's collaborative storytelling, and you're supposed to have fun.
Yeah.
So at any point, whether you're the dungeon master or the player, if you're putting your foot down and saying no, this is how it is or whatever, then it's not fun, and now you've broken one or both of the first two rules. So
I definitely try to stick to that. I have a hard time sticking to it as a player. That's why I choose to just be the DM.
Right. And partially I bring it up because, it just, having that adversarial view between you and the dungeon master, like I've been there, right? Like I've been there both with the players, and the other side. And it's not hard. Like if you're a dungeon master and you just want to kill characters, that's not hard. That's not the challenge. The challenge is giving them an appropriate challenge and making a compelling story and whatever. I could throw a level 99 arc dragon at a party and,
Name Tim.
Right. And name Tim. Some
the
call
arc
me
dragon.
Tim.
Precisely.
Yeah. So it's very easy to eat characters. The universe is big and scary, but
yeah, I agree. And it is about telling and experiencing, creating a story together as a group of people. That should be the goal. If you're thinking, oh, it's me versus the dungeon master, or it's me, the dungeon master versus the players, I'd say that you're coming at it from a wrong point of view.
Right.
And that's what I will do.
Yeah.
But when is this campaign starting then, Justin?
It's never happening.
So
This is never going to happen.
Yeah. I first started courting it back in September, and I've been doing some brainstorming and stuff like that. So part of the problem is I started a campaign years ago. We played it, and then when I moved to Florida, it fell apart, obviously. And offered to play remote. I've been playing remote for the last 4 years now.
So a little remote as well. We have to because one of the guys is like across the country.
Right.
Oh no,
So,
20 minutes away.
No, okay. It's like 3 hours away or something, and you have to cross a bridge that's like really expensive. It's
bridge?
Oh my god, a bridge.
You have tolls in your wonderful socialist utopia?
We have toll on one bridge.
The one bridge of the country.
We have one bridge that connects like the part that's connected to Germany. Then we have an island in between, and then we have the island where the capital is, where that's the island I live on. And there's like one bridge between that, and it's like pretty expensive to cross that bridge. It's like, let's see,
€9.
it's like $40.
Holy crap. Why do you stand for that? Like even in capitalist America, we don't have any bridges like that. Jesus.
Yet.
Right? Yeah. Trust me, I definitely had some
We have some
misgivings
tunnels
about
here
the
in
whole
New York that are fucking
If
expensive.
you cross often, you can
Yeah.
have like a subscription thing or something, and it gets cheaper.
Yeah, but that's just crazy. Like I don't understand the toll road model, especially
it
if
was
it's
originally
been,
supposed to pay for the bridge. Like once it was paid off,
yeah,
it would go free,
Right.
and it's
Yeah,
never
They're
gone free.
never going to do that.
Yeah.
Nobody
That's what
ever
they tell
puts
you.
Nobody
And
ever
there's
puts
like-
a toll up and is like, yeah, we're going to get rid of this when things are paid off.
And whenever
Things
it's
are never
brought up
paid
to the
off.
politicians, they let's change the subject. Let's
Yeah.
talk about something else.
How much money does that make a year? Yeah, of course we're not going to get rid of that money. So because the mild excuse in between it's paid off and open grift is the fact that, but now we've got to pay for repairs. And now it's been 20 years. So really we need to redo the whole thing. So we've got to start over.
That's
like
the Belt Parkway here in New York, always under construction.
Yeah.
That's
I
actually
worked-
pretty much every highway here. It's always under construction.
Yeah,
For
I
one
worked for
degree
the
or
Florida
another.
Department of Transportation. Like that was one of the things hard to reconcile. It's like, don't you already tax people to pay for the roads, and then you built roads that you can charge people to drive on? Like, what? Like
Yeah, I think it's the whole bridge thing is fucking stupid. But it is what it is. So we play remote.
Down with the proletariat.
Usually the way we've been doing it is the rest of us live close to each other, so we meet up here and we have like two camera setups, one so you can see us and one for the board. And then when Corona happened, we just did everybody was at their computers because then the guy who does not live with us here, he shouldn't come here because Corona. So we played over Discord, which worked okay.
Can't blame Corona for everything, man.
What do you use to play online when you just play remote? Roll20?
Yeah, we're doing Roll20 right now. So
nobody wanted to pay for it, so I ended up streaming. I took the map and I covered it up, and I just used Photoshop to like uncover it and move their characters around.
Nice. Yeah.
So that worked okay.
I mean, you can get quite a ways with the free stuff in Roll20, but both of the current dungeon masters, they paid for it out of hand, and they were like, "This is what I want to use. We're going to use this." So,
as I understood it, on Roll20, I could not upload my own. Like, I have all the pictures from the campaign, from the book we bought, and everything. If we wanted to use Roll20, we had to buy it again there, and nobody wanted to pay. I was like, I'm not paying for it. And nobody was like, I'm not paying for it.
Yeah, I mean the sane thing to do, in my opinion, for that sort of thing is to split the cost between your group. That's one of the things that D&D Beyond opened up too, is that like you've got the legendary edition, like when it came out was like $300 or $500 or whatever it is, and now it's like $800. And it's like, if you want all of the books and all of the source material, just get together as a group. If you're really that worked up about it, split $30 6 ways, $5 to play for a couple months.
My roommate has a serious I have to have everything collection issue, so he has everything on D&D Beyond and the subscription to share it.
Right.
So we're lucky on that regard.
Yeah, it's nice with stuff like that with Roll20. The digital stuff is a little bit easier. Like D&D Beyond, you can create the campaigns and then share the books that way. But yeah, with I don't know. Yeah, I get you. It's part of why like I haven't signed up for Roll20 to do anything like that, is because if I'm going to buy the books right now, I'm going to give my money directly to Wizards, because it's their game system. Whereas like I don't want to turn around and re-buy it on Roll20 just for the convenience or whatever.
I mean, we play through D&D Beyond, but the whole map thing, it's not existing there yet. So that's why we were talking about Roll20, but then we just ended up using Photoshop, and I stream it, and then D&D Beyond. That's how we've done it so far.
Yeah, and I've got the advantage that I'm mostly a player right now, so I just buy the source books and build my characters. So,
do you just play officially sanctioned D&D wizard things, or do you just like
no, we've been doing it since Corona mostly. We've been doing a couple of things. So we've got our regular monthly game that's been going on for more than 20 years. That stuff has turned into officially sanctioned because the DM who's running it now, she was in the middle of a homebrew campaign, but she didn't want to upload and modify her stuff for the digital because we've been playing tabletop in person up to that point. So she did White Plume Mountain, Dead and Thay, and then we're about to do Tomb of Horrors is the one that we're gearing up for.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
None
of us have played it, despite the fact that we've been playing so long. We mostly do homebrew stuff, right? Where the DMs have run their own campaigns and whatever.
It's not good. There's a YouTube video you should watch once you've played it. So you're like,
I'm good. It doesn't matter because Dead and Thay, we basically rolled over on it. I'm not sure it's written to be this, I don't know, easy is the word that comes to mind, but like, there were a couple of challenges and stuff, but as much as anything, it's endurance, right? Like any wizard's going to bitch if they've gone through 6 to 10 encounters in a day and they're running out of spell points, right? But other than that, who cares? Like it's, you rest and whatever. And when we talked to the DM afterwards, because we were like, we're actively invading a fortress that is protecting the phylacteries of a lich, demi-lich god type creature in the world. Where the fuck are his standing armies? Where, like, if I were the bad guy, you guys wouldn't have made it out of the second room because as soon as you engage the first one, or at least within the first day, because we had like 3 days worth of resting in here, somebody would have tripped over the corpses of the guards and alerted the entire national army. And like there are rules for it in the module, and we just never raised the threat level because of the way that we were interacting with it. We joked that like adventuring day, we spent like 10 minutes of real time in the dungeon, because each encounter is like less than a minute, right? And so you do 10 encounters in a day, that's still 10 minutes, and then you go rest. And so we were like, man, like we really should have the life of adventurers because like some of the longest times we spent in the dungeon was dealing with like side roleplay stuff. But yeah, so with like Tomb of Horrors, like I'm level 15 going into it. I'm going to hurt the GM's mind a little bit. Like I've already been sending her stuff. I was like, I'm sorry, but I'm a very high level wizard now, so I've got shenanigans, and you should be prepared for them. But
I mean, I think it's in what's it called? It's been made for 5th edition, right? It's in a collection.
Yeah, it's in the Yawning Portal, I think.
Yeah. I saw a guy who ran it, and he ran it. So I don't know how forgiving your GM is, but he was like, okay, so we're gonna run it. We're gonna run it the way it was written, because like it's supposed to be super challenging. I'm sticking to what's it said here, and it was. I mean, it does not look like fun to play.
See, that's part of it, right? It's kind of like a capstone. We're experienced players. We're going to go in with all this stuff and whatever else, but we're okay with that, because that's what I mean when it was a series of one shots. Like it was, hey, this coronavirus thing's kind of out of hand. Maybe we should just play something else this time, and we'll play White Plume Mountain. And that took us like 3 or 4 sessions. So we're like, cool, well, it's still kind of going on, so maybe we'll play Dead and Bay. And now it's like, okay, well, this is going to be the last one. If you make it, we'll see what happens. But so we're kind of excited for the challenge, and it's not like that ends, right? We're just going to pick a different story to go forward. And then we've got a Wednesday game that's along the same lines, but that guy's been homebrewing his own stuff. We played a little bit of the Ghosts of Saltmarsh because, again, it's like a series of modules. So we were playing that as a campaign, and then he took that campaign and kind of fast forwarded it 200 years, because for whatever reason that's what he likes to do. Like that's how he tells stories as a dungeon master. So we're now in the future, and we're playing Wizard Police. Like he took some of like what my character had done. I was a Eldritch Knight Wizard multi-class, and so he took that guy and basically said, cool, the knights of this realm and the wizards of this realm got together and made the council. And so basically we're part of the wizard hand now. And so my guy's a conjurer, and it's kind of fun because like the one campaign I'm Gandalf, because I'm the one wizard in the party, and I'm a diviner, so I'm really more of a support type character. And then in this one I'm a conjurer, which is slightly different. Like it's still control, but I do some summoning, but I'm not the only wizard, so I don't have to have fireball. I don't have to have all these other spells, because somebody else can pick that up. And so it's nice to be a little bit more specialized in that regard, and instead of just being like, okay, well, yeah, sure, on paper it says I'm this class, but really I have to do everything. I have to do all the heavy lifting.
When you said the wizard hand, what did you? My mind went to the Elder Scrolls universe, the hand, the assassins, which I assume it wasn't that, because that's it's like a council of assassin wizards.
No, yeah, they're just called the council, and I mean they're just the high mages of the realm, right? They police magical law, and they're quasi militaristic. Like I don't know, think Jedi, I guess, a little bit, because there is like a standing army of this area, and in his world, the Saltmarsh is this little port town, but basically, because of the actions of our previous campaign, they became a power unto themselves, and they actually split from the kingdom they were in. So now we're this little nation state that occupies like the southern tip of this peninsula or something like that, and we're the military / police / just the archmages of this realm. So
it's better than an archmage.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah, like our first mission was, so some werewolves are killing people in this town. Go figure out what's going on. And it wasn't. We approached it like it was a classic, like we're going to go hunt down the monster type of thing. But werewolves are sort of like they're second class citizens, but they're not necessarily just treated as monsters. But when they go nuts and start killing people, then they are. And it turned out it was a little bit more, full moon, in the sense that we had somebody masquerading as a werewolf, and then we had actual werewolves, involved and stuff like that. So, but I basically, I definitely showed up ready to put down like a whole warren of werewolves, and it was like, you can't kill them; they're real people. And it's like, well, but dang it. So,
before we end, just what you brought up with the Jedi and thing, I just wanted to say that I read the Master and Apprentice book, and it was good. It was really. I mean, you can really get a good insight to the whole moral dilemma that the Jedi's face when because we're supposed to act on the Senate's will, not like what we necessarily think is right or wrong. For example, there is a slavery issue in this book, and nobody really gives a shit except Qui-Gon and some other people. But like politically, people are like it's too complicated to solve.
Right.
Which is pretty interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to read it, and then I'd have to reacquaint myself with some of the old stuff, because the way that I understood it from some of the legend stuff was that the Jedi don't report to the Senate, but the Senate can ask them for help. So that they really weren't meant to be police. They were diplomats and balance the status quo type of stuff. So is that the kind of feel you got from this book, or just the Senate was like, hop to, there's crazy shit afoot?
I definitely get the impression that if the Senate asks for something from the Jedi Council, they make sure they solve that to the best of their abilities.
Well, they do, because the general premise is the keepers of the peace but the best way to do that is through the galactic government, which is the Republic. They're the ones whose planet they're on, at least as far as recent history goes. They used to be on a different planet, but that's another matter. And so, that's how they do it. It's because, all right, the Galactic Republic is what we got. And even when they're not always right, we can be arbiters and play kind of a neutral party, because they don't just like take the Senate side or whatever. They resolve a dispute that they can, how they can. Usually it's interplanetary. It's not usually like the Senate itself versus one outlying system. It's like, go to this planet that's in the Republic because they're having border disputes or some shit.
Right.
And then obviously, yes, the war, and they overexceeded what they should have always been doing, but they've done that forever.
There's this, I don't know if you know, it's in Legends too. There's a big corporation called Circuit Corp, which is like massive and hundreds of years old. And how it works is that slavery is abolished in the Republic, but any slaves that Circuit Corp currently has, they can keep, it seems. And also anyone who is a child of a slave automatically becomes a slave.
Born under it type deal. Sure.
Yeah. And that's kind of like a whole thing.
Slavery in Star Wars only makes sense in places like Tatooine anyway, where you're in a relatively inhospitable world and technology is not necessarily as available to you, because there's absolutely no reason like what they do in fucking Canto Bight, where they have child slaves. It's like, I'm sorry, you're the richest people in the world. How are you fully automated?
They have child slaves as well, this corp. And it's even said in the book, it's not really, it's just because they can. It's just like the way that, for example, they're mining a moon here. It's not that valuable. They're just doing it because they can.
Right. They're evil because they're evil. It was, like I'm saying.
No, they can make money of it. It's not a lot of money. It's not that valuable, but it's profit. And so they do it. Just like slaves, it's profit because they're free.
Right. In general, there's absolutely no reason everything shouldn't be done by droids, which everything already is being done by droids, more or less.
Droids in Star Wars are always kind of weird anyway, because like they're semi-sentient, right? Like there's no real reason to want to do that. Like
Well,
the
they're
battle
automatons
droids,
unless they're the good guys and they have a personality, or
right,
they need a bad guy to speak in a sarcastic tone or whatever.
right. Yeah, like the battle droids as a concept made more sense, except for obviously giving them personality again.
Oh,
Because
yeah, making
like
them
what?
these fucking wonky ass things.
Right? Like why would I want that in
Roger,
my
Roger.
soldiers? Like, you know. So
Yeah, but there's definitely some droid stuff in this too. There's a guy who was raised by protocol droids, which is like he's a pretty fun character.
That seems like it could be an interesting story in general. What happens to people raised by droids? What happens to people raised on this world? Blah 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 blah.
Yeah, man, the book is. I was very.
it's the
Surprised at how good
Skywalker
it was.
saga. We can only tell stories about Skywalker, even if she has no connection to the Skywalkers whatsoever.
No, she is. She
By
took
the
the
end,
name at
she
the end.
will
It's
be.
fine.
Yeah.
So she is. She's the last Skywalker. She's amazing. She's the greatest. All hail Rey. Can we end now before I have to hit him?
I think we've managed to hit all of the topics.
Yeah.
Literally all of them.
Yeah.
Master and Apprentice. If you like Qui-Gon Jinn, read the book.
And if you
It
like
has
even
some
better
interesting
Qui-Gon
topics
Jinn
in
and
it.
Obi-Wan, go read the Jedi Apprentice series because it's older and it's better.
It's not canon though. Just remember that, guys.
Yeah. So you can follow
But it's a good
Andreas's
story, and
bullshit, or
that's
you
the
can
most
read good
important.
stories and what Star Wars what used to be
Right.
good.